Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for not wanting to share the money my uncle gave me with my cousins? This has been causing tension since 2019 and I'm starting to have doubts, so I would like an outside perspective. I, 27 male, had an uncle who was smart and a successful man in the corporate world. He married my aunt, his college sweetheart, a couple of years after they graduated because she got pregnant. She went on to have 2 more children, and since my uncle made good money, she became a stay-at-home parent. My aunt was kinda stuck up and put a lot of value into looking good and material possessions, and raised my cousins Brad, Jessica and Lauren, 29 male, 26 female and 23 female, to be the same. Brad would always brag about the latest and coolest things that he would get, while his sisters looked down on other members of the family for not having as nice clothes or houses as them, but would do it in a Regina George kinda way, so they could argue that it wasn't intended as an insult, and would do a sorry not sorry type of apology if pressured to. A lot of us didn't really care for their attitude and only really tolerated them for my uncle. Well, in 2019, a bomb dropped, and my aunt was having an on and off affair with some guy she knew in high school. My uncle did a DNA test, twice, and none of his wife's children were biologically his. Brad and Lauren were the on and off guy's kids, and as far as I know, Jessica's bio dad is unknown. My uncle was heartbroken and furious, and was ready to divorce, but because his wife never worked during the marriage and there was no prenup, he would be screwed. My aunt knew this and showed no remorse, according to my uncle. She was like, either you stay and get over it, or I take everything you have. My uncle was in a really dark place, and we all tried to be there for him, but he kept walls up. He died not too long after and drained all bank accounts and racked up huge credit card debts. Most of the money he took went to either charities, people he liked, or organizations that he supported, but sent $60,000 to me as a gift, so I would have to pay little to no taxes. I know because I got a notification from the bank, and there was an investigation to make sure it was legitimate before I was granted access to the funds. This was a long and stressful process. My aunt's credit history was ruined and my aunt was forced to put her house on the market. I decided to keep my mouth shut about the money because my cousins were now going around begging for financial help, and reminded everyone all those times they helped when we were in a financial bind, how family helps family. However, technically they aren't family by blood, or even spirit in my eyes. These were just the rude people I had to see and tolerate during family events that aren't really related to me. I'd rather just keep the money and save it for a rainy day or start a trust for potential children. So am I the a-hole? Edit, I keep seeing this so I wanted to make an edit for more info. 1. Brad and Jessica both had jobs, but often lived beyond their means and relied on my uncle to bail them out. That's why they're in a financial bind too. 2. Technically, my uncle, despite his wife's vocal protests, paid for my college education as a gift and told me that I didn't have to pay the money back so long as I kept my grades up. 3. I know that it takes more than DNA to be family, and have an adoptive cousin on my other side of the family that I would rather give the money to than them. The point that I was trying to make is that, they don't feel like family in addition to not being related to me. 4. Towards the end, I can't say for sure why my uncle didn't leave them a dime. I can only guess that he did it so that they wouldn't use some of the money to help out his wife. There wasn't even any money for a funeral and my parents had to pay for it. I've contemplated giving them some of the $60,000, but I'm worried they'll ask where I got the money from and how it can get back to my uncle's widow and her children. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's your money. It was given to you as a gift. Your uncle gave you the money for a couple of reasons. One is that he didn't want his wife to have it, and another is because he explicitly wanted you to have it. It's your choice what to do with it. But if you wanted to honor your uncle, I think his wishes for what the money was not supposed to be used for is clear. Keep it. Not the a-hole. Leaving family on the street without a roof or food is an option. Interesting take. OP is beginning to act like the people they stated they hate. This is obnoxiously selfish, especially considering they are keeping the money quiet when his aunt and cousins need it the most. OP could be the bigger person instead of an uppity nouveau riche type. This really rubs me the wrong way. OP has a chance to make a difference in 3 people's lives, but they choose to frivolously spend the money on useless material items that will only make them feel acutely better. I hope OP makes better decisions with their newfound funds. That's BS, I could hear it if you care about the kids. But the aunt? Seriously? She deserves nothing. She cheated and lied about it for years. And the kids are adults, they'll be fine. If the uncle wanted them to have his money, he would have left it to them. OP should respect their uncle's wishes and keep the money. Agreed. She's a disgusting human being who cheated and abused her partner. Not the a-hole. Unless there were times they helped you out that you haven't mentioned, you owe them nothing. They're adults and can provide for themselves. But that's the thing. Technically, my uncle's wife and her children didn't. They were all living off of my uncle's money when I got help for college, so at the end of the day, it was his money and his choice. Yeah, they didn't have money. Any help they gave you was your uncle's money, and he gave you this money now for you to have. It's yours, don't give them any. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for saying in front of my young siblings that my father is a manipulative piece of work? I do think I need some therapy, maybe when I'm more financially stable, and I am getting there. I am currently 21 female, and have just moved out last year and considering cutting contacts with my family. My father used to love me very much, it all changed when I was 10 or so. He still provided basic care for my needs but was much colder and harsher towards me, frequently losing his temper with me, and my respect for him turned into fear. What confused me was that he was still as pleasant as he could be with my younger brothers, but just treated me differently. Truth be told, I was bitter. It resulted in me becoming jealous and a bully to my brothers, and our relationships were terrible. Then my father would use me as an example to teach my brothers who not to become, and even prevented my mother from showing me affection, saying I don't deserve it and she should love her sons more. At 16, they broke the truth to me that I am not my father's birth child. They retained their relationship for the sake of the family and my two brothers who were his. I was surprised, but I guess it made sense. Of course he would not love a child that is not his, but I still hate him. He then told me things like how I owe him for everything because it was not his responsibility to raise me, that I should pay this debt in the future. I did not go to college, got a job with my aunt's help, and finally moved out last year after saving enough money and got promoted. My mother asked me to return home for dinner after New Year, saying she misses me, and I did. We had dinner, mother and father asked me about my well-being and all, and everyone seems to be pleasant. I thought this was a change for the better. After dinner, they sat me down and my father told me that he wanted me to chip in for my brother's college fees, because now is time I pay him back for raising me. He said it was entirely up to me how much I can support, it signified my gratitude and upbringing after all. I just kind of stood up, laughed, and called him a manipulative piece of crap in front of my two brothers, younger one is only 13. I also called out my mother for being a coward, but mostly directed my words to my father. I promptly left and slammed their front door. My mother had been texting me for a while, and she wanted me to just apologize to him. After all, he did raise a child that is not his and he provided for me. She said she's tired of having to maintain the relationship between me and father, and I shouldn't make it hard for everyone. Not the a-hole. Sent him a text that says, "It sounds like you were cheated on and found out when I was 10 that I am not your biological daughter. The fact that you did not divorce your wife is your problem. The fact that you paid for my upbringing is your problem. You are not legally entitled to any money, but if you want to guilt someone over it, take it up with your wife. I am fed up with the way you treat me and I am no longer interested in this relationship. Have a nice life." Not the a-hole. Even if they had divorced, he would have been paying child support and thus paying to raise you. If he's on the birth certificate, that's how the state would deal with it. The fact that he's trying to guilt you for things out of your control is ridiculous. Your mom doesn't have to maintain that relationship because there isn't one. The only person making it hard is your father. In my opinion, pick up his own strategy, not my kids, not my problem. Reap what you sow, right? He'd have to pay child support even though his wife cheated and tricked him into raising someone else's kid for 10 years? That can't be how it works, surely? Edit, don't know why I was downvoted, I'm from the UK and I was right. That's not how it works where I'm from. What a freaking toxic environment. I do think your mum is just as bad as your dad, because she stayed despite how horrible he is to you. Not the a-hole. You might be better off cutting all ties with a lot of them. Not only did she stay despite how horrible he treats OP, she never tried to stop it, and she's technically the reason for the abuse as well. Not the a-hole, and her mum deserves to be stuck with such an awful man. The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for yelling at my stepsister and telling her she had no right to my sister's necklace?" I, 16 female, live with my dad, his wife and her daughter, 15 female. My dad married his wife 3 years ago, 5 years after my mom and sister died. My dad gave me my sister's favorite necklace after she died. It was something she wore all the time and had since she was a baby or a toddler, I'm not even sure. But it's the one thing she had that was able to be kept sentimentally. I keep it up safe because I always kind of thought I would wear it for my graduation and wedding day and then save it for when I have kids and pass it along. Maybe it's dumb, I don't know. Anyway, this girl has always liked snooping through my stuff. She wants to borrow things all the time, and I hate how she does it. I do not like having her in my room at all, because she's just always snooping. Her mom has told her to cut it out, and my dad gave me a lock so I could protect my room while I wasn't home. But she comes in when I'm in there, even if I say no to her coming in. And a while ago, she found my sister's necklace and wanted to borrow it. I said no. I told her not to touch it. She told me I should share. I said if she did not put it down, I would get her mom. She didn't go, so I called her mom, who got her out of my room. 5 minutes after her mom went downstairs, again she came back in and said that I should share, and that my sister was her sister too and she has as much right to it. I lost it. I told her to get out of my room and that she had no right to my sister's necklace because she was not our sister, and I would never, ever let her borrow it or wear it for one more second. She told her mom I yelled at her and was mean. Her mom told my dad, who told me I should have handled it better, but he would make sure she didn't go into my room without permission again. Since then, mom and daughter have both requested I apologize and make up for implying I don't care about her. But that would be a lie. And I'm not sorry for snapping because she has stomped on my boundaries for so long. Part of me wonders if that makes me an a-hole because they're really not happy I won't apologize. My dad and his wife made her apologize to me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister died. How dare your stepmom be mad that you don't want to share something of hers with someone who had no relationship with your sister. She's more mad I won't apologize for snapping at her daughter and making her feel bad, while her daughter is mad that I won't share her. Not the a-hole. With the way you describe your stepsister's behavior, it's understandable why you haven't built a strong relationship and bond with her. It's really hard to build a loving relationship with someone who repeatedly violated your privacy and doesn't respect your boundaries. And if your stepmom asks you to apologize again, I would tell her that. Honestly, while your dad is enforcing your boundaries, it doesn't sound like the parents have done any work with your stepsister to help her figure out other ways to get close with you, or gotten her therapy to address a pretty inappropriate pattern of behavior. Yeah, I have zero interest in building a relationship with her. If I had family I could stay with, I would go to them, but I don't. So I try to be around her as little as possible and I keep busy in order to not see her much. Not the a-hole. Both steps are entitled and think their crap does not stink. She had no business going into your things, and wanting to take your deceased sister's necklace is sick and maybe a power play. You need to secure it somehow safe from her. There is no doubt that she will take it and make up some justification. Every time I've read one of these issues, the guilty party not only takes it but either refuses to return it, claims she lost it, or actually loses it. Not the a-hole. She needs to learn some manners. Please hide that necklace, OP. I don't trust this girl. Can you get a safety deposit box or something for your valuables? You absolutely should not have to do that, but I'm worried that she'll go through your stuff and steal things. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for being honest with my half-brother about why my dad and I don't get along? So some context to help this all make a bit more sense. I'm a guy in my 30s. My mom died when I was a kid, like young enough that I don't really remember her, and my dad was very much not fit to be a single parent. Put plainly, he was incredibly neglectful and pretty emotionally abusive. I basically raised myself, and as a result, he and I have never really gotten along. It got worse in my teenage years. I can admit some fault in that. I was definitely what most people would call a problem child. I didn't go to school much and was often in trouble when I did. I got involved in quite a bit of petty crime, mostly shoplifting and vandalism, was a contrary little guy. All that to say, tensions rose big time through my teen years, and it all culminated in Dad kicking me out when I was 16. We didn't talk for ages, until I was 20 and his new wife had a baby, and I wanted to be involved with my half-brother, who I'll call James. So, fast forwards to now in the current situation. James is 15 now and he and I are great pals. He and Dad have a much better relationship than Dad and I do. Honestly, it's like Dad's a different person. He's kind to James, attentive to his needs, supportive of his hobbies, both financially and emotionally, pays for him to go to a good private school. You get it. Dad and I's relationship is better than it was, but it's still strained. Honestly, it's a case of we avoid each other as much as possible, and are just civil when we have to see each other. Anyone with eyes can see we don't really get on, James included. Last week, he asked me why we don't get on. I was hesitant at first, because I don't want to ruin things between him and Dad. I understand that people change and that's what's happened with Dad. But I didn't really want to lie to him, so I asked him if he'd spoken to Dad about it. He said that Dad told him about my behavioral issues as a teen, but that was all. I basically said that, while that wasn't necessarily untrue, it wasn't the whole story, and explained how Dad mistreated me. James just kinda got quiet and seemed kinda shocked, and say he didn't realize Dad could be like that. I assured him he isn't that way anymore, but he was when I was a kid and a lot of it was unforgivable, at least in my opinion. Well, I guess James later grilled Dad about it and it ended in a fight between them where James called Dad out on being an abuser, and Dad told him to stop trying to get involved in stuff that doesn't concern him and happened before he was born. I got chewed out by my dad and his wife for stirring the pot and deliberately trying to cause arguments. Dad and James haven't really been speaking since the argument, and Dad texted me this morning to call me a petty a-hole who can't leave the past in the past. I feel pretty bad right now. Am I the a-hole for being honest and causing a fight in doing so? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The kid is old enough to know that Dad used to be an a-hole. He asked, you told him, you even explained that he'd changed. What he did with the info was the pot stirring, but, he's 15 so. It was going to come out eventually. Surely your dad can't think it was just going to stay buried? I think Dad hoped it would. He definitely isn't owning or apologizing for his past behavior with OP. Not the a-hole. There's something really messed up where people rewrite the past. You can change, but don't lie about previous mistakes. Accountability is eternal, not for 5 minutes. Your dad did not make things right with you. I doubt he's ever apologized for his actions. He doesn't like being shown up. But that's on him. He did that to himself. You shouldn't have to lie to cover up for him. And if he hadn't chosen to deal with his other son asking him in the way he reacted, he wouldn't be in this position now. But what hasn't changed? Your father's inability to realize he is responsible for his actions and the consequences of such. I'm very sorry you went through so much. I hope you're living a happier life today. Added to add, him and his wife calling you petty and other insults, is offensive. Your dad lied to your brother by editing out his behavior. Expecting you not to correct that lie is unreasonable. I doubt he apologized. Yeah, he never has. Not the a-hole. You were not a difficult teenager. You were an abused child acting out with no support. Your brother is still a minor but he is old enough to be given honest answers to his questions. You didn't bring the subject up. Your dad showed himself to still be an abusive a-hole when your brother let you know he knew about your behavior as a teen. Your a-hole dad framed that as you being the problem instead of the truth. You were a victim of the a-hole's abuse. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day everyone.